Alright, what's up? So, I'm gonna do another video about a tournament report about a attorney I went to yesterday. I also want to make a small, quick correction on the video I posted yesterday about a tournament I went to the day before that. So, the video yesterday I made a title. It's a really small mistake, but it's just basically I put the date incorrectly. I went to the tournament on Monday, which should have been the December 6th, not December 7th. So I made a incorrect mistake on that title. And so today's video is going to focus on yesterday's tournament, which is Tuesday, the 7th of December of 2021. So just a small, quick correction. I'm sure no one really cares, but just wanted to put it out there. So yeah, so I went to another tournament yesterday. I've been going to a lot of tournaments because in the next month or so, I might not have much time to play both Arena and Magic. I'm gonna be out visiting some um, friends and family in a different state, and gonna be working. So uh, just won't have access to my local card shops. Won't have access to my computer that I play my game on, nor will I have you know much time. So yeah, yesterday was probably gonna be the last day. Maybe I'll try to squeeze in the game on Friday, but I also am doing some stuff on Saturday, so I don't know if I'll have time to play this Friday. But yeah, so um, just gonna get into it without kind of digressing like I always do. Basically, I went tournament yesterday. It was 11-person tournament, and yeah, I went undefeated yesterday. Went 4-0. There was 4 rounds. So the quick breakdown is round one I played against Murktide. Is it Murktide? The popular Is it Murktide. Round two I played against Amulet Titan. Round three I played against Lotus Combo, Lotus Breach Combo, and round four I played against another Amulet Titan deck. So let me start off by showing you kind of the results of a screen caps I captured on my phone. And I just transferred it to my computer. And keep in mind, I blanked out everyone's name. This is using the companion app. If you are not familiar with that, basically all my local LGS stores, they all use the companion app to host their tournament. I really like the companion app in terms of it's a lot easier to find your opponents. You get your results almost immediately. You don't have to fight, to go up to look at a screen or a paper printout. It's a lot more organized. It's a lot more easy to see what's going on, kind of see your standings, and kind of see your win loss ratio, your tiebreakers, all that jazz that normally is only available to the tournament organizer. Now you can see that on your phone. Really great, really good stuff. The app itself is not that great in terms of like using it as a calculator. It's got some bugs here and there. It's a little slow, but it is what it is. It works. It's better than nothing. Um, Speaking of better than nothing, I wish Yu-Gi-Oh had the same thing. Yu-Gi-Oh just that doesn't exist at all. Like we have an app called Yu-Gi-Oh Nexus, but it's only used to calculate your life. To be a calculator, you cannot use that to really host a tournament or see your results or standings. You can use it similar to like the companion app. You can use it to look up your cards, stuff like that. Use it, translations and stuff. But I wish the app was a little bit better. It's really flashy, but wish I could do the whole tournament results and stuff like that. Anyways, let me go ahead and start off. I'm kind of filming this on my phone, so it's kind of on a tripod, and it kind of sucks. So bear with me here as I kind of pivot over to my computer. So yeah, so this was from the 6th yesterday. So that the companion app highlights where you in orange where you stand, um, and so that's me in orange at the very top there. It's got a couple of numbers over there. So the numbers over there just means opponents match win rate, and then there's two more columns that you can't see. It's your win percentage and then your opponent's game winnage percentage too. So it gives you all three tiebreakers in case you were wondering where you're going to be standing. But yeah, so basically for every game you win, you get 3 points. Every game you draw, I believe you just get 1 point, and every game you lose, you get nothing. So, yeah, that was my ranking on Monday, the 6th. So I was undefeated, and then this was yesterday. And like I said, I'm just blanking out everyone's name because it's got our first and last name, and I don't want to dox anyone or, in case they don't want to be known. I can tell you the game store. Like, I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter too much. But here's my result from yesterday. And then my tiebreaker kind of. I wish I captured the my win percentage because I think that's a little bit more important in terms of like seeing how I did. But I think my win percentage for yesterday was 80% of my games that I played. I won 80% of them. So meaning, well, yesterday I lost 2 games per se. I won all 4 matches, but lost a total of 2 games. And I'll kind of get into that. So, yeah, I've been doing pretty well with my my tournament stores and stuff like that. Um, and so I'm really um, proud as to where the decks has evolved. It went from kind of being really hard to play, being kind of slow, clunky, seeing a lot of problems, and I spent a couple of months just playing it, getting a lot better with it, and it's being evolving pretty well over time. So basically, in the last like 4 or 5 tournaments, I've either tied for first, got second, or have been undefeated. So I say that's a pretty good result for this deck, especially since no one's really playing this color combination. Esper is not very popular. Everyone's on the if you're gonna play control, everyone's playing either kind of like a Murktide, is it control, um, if you can even say that, or just blue-white control. And so no one's playing Esper, and it's kind of sad because I think Esper does what it does best. It does everything really well. It's an overall really good set of colors for control. Because my playing Magic, I start off with Grixis control, and Grixis is great. I love Grixis, but it does lack ability to do some things that Esper can do. So Esper is a better control deck than Grixis is. Grixis is a better like mid-range deck than Esper can be per se. So yeah, let's kind of get into it. Let me talk about the first game first, and we'll go from there. So first game, I played against Murktide. Is it Murktide? In case you guys don't know what that is, it's basically it's kind of a deck where it puts Monkey, Darcy early threats on the board, and it plays a lot of cantrips. It tries to build its graveyard up, and it kind of outvalues you with Unholy Heat, Expressive Alliteration, and some counter spells, Archmage Charms, stuff like that. So it's a good deck. It puts pressure early on, and it kind of plays a bit of disruption. Its end game is that it's gonna play Murktide Regent, which is a giant. Well, not really a big creature. It's a 4/4, I believe, 4/4 or 3/3. But basically, it delves your grave, and it can become like a 7/7 fairly easily, with flying, and it can get bigger if you cast another Murktide Regent. So there are big threats that you gotta deal with that has flying, hard to remove, especially since the deck is playing counterspell, is playing ways to interact and get rid of your threats. So overall, a lot of people would say Murktide decks are either number one or number two in standing of power, and I do agree with it. I think the deck is very consistent. It's really quick. It puts out threats really fast, and you have to kind of deal with it, or you die. Its only weakness is that it's just it's red and blue, so it's limited in card pool. But the card pool in is just really good enough. That doesn't really need a third color. Some people do play white for to splash in the white to either play like Teferi or to play like Prismatic Ending to kind of get rid of some graveyard hate, and that makes sense. And I've seen that interaction before, but the definitely more popular build is just a regular Izzet build. So anyways, going into game one, I didn't see a Lurrus, so I did see a Darcy game first turn. So I thought it was a Lurrus, but I noticed my opponent wasn't playing Lurrus. So I immediately jumped to thinking it's maybe an Izzet deck of some kind. You know, they would be the only deck to play like a Darcy and not have a Lurrus in the deck. So I think it was either a Lurrus first turn or a Ragavan. So I don't quite remember, but I do remember seeing both of them. Um, Anyways, the game goes on. Um, Making a long story short, I think I steal his Darcy or Ragavan with a Archmage's Charm. He tries to, um, you kill it or get it back. Play a little bit more. He plays like another Darcy. I Kyle Giles him. At the time, I think he could Murktide, and I exile his grave, killed his creature. Um, Started applying pressure with my Snapcasters, and really that game one wasn't really a threat because I don't think he drew a lot. He cantripped quite a bit, but didn't see any Murktide. So game one, I didn't see any Murktides dropped on me. It was just mainly Ragavan and Darcy that were kind of putting pressure on me, if anything. They were kind of easy to deal with because I had prismatic endings. I had Kyle. I had Teferi, and so it wasn't really much of a game one against me. So I win that one. Going to game two. He goes first. I think he goes first both games. I think so. I don't quite remember, but he goes first game two. I think drops a Ragavan immediately on me. I draw. I think I draw uh, something. I didn't quite have an out to Ragavan yet. So he attacks me. I think for 2 turns with Ragavan, exiles like two lands from me. I think or something like that, or something he couldn't cast or wouldn't want to cast. I think he does exile a Kaz Guile, but he didn't want to cast it just for 3 mana to make a 1/1 token, which I thought maybe he should have, because I know um, if he did that, maybe things would have been different. But he decides not to cast. He leaves his mana open. We trade back and forth for a little bit. I get rid of his Ragavan, get rid of his Darcy, and eventually, I think I get Teferi out. He gets rid of combats with me to try to get rid of Teferi. He eventually gets rid of Teferi, but he's tapped out. I think I tried to do Kazgao or something like that, and then he forces negations me, and then I think he did something another counterspell somewhere. He spell pierced me, so he does have forms of interaction in terms of negation. So I was well aware of that. I knew if I were to play these cards, I knew I would probably run into that, and I was mentally okay with that because I knew even if he negated my cards, I would still be okay next turn. I still had answers in my hand. I wasn't really too worried at that point. So goes back and forth. At this point, he only has a Darcy out on board, and he's tapped out. Goes back to swings back to me. I draw into Kaya, the Planeswalker, and I had a couple of other stuff to back her up. So I'm okay. I'll just drop it. I'll drop the Kaya out, shoot the Darcy for to remove it. Okay, cool. It doesn't get negated, doesn't get forced or anything. He's tapped out. Pass back to him. He's at 4 mana, I think, 4 lands, and he dashes a Ragavan, tries to run over to Kaya. Cool. I got Fatal Push, push the monkey. I got rid of that. He didn't have a counter spell, or maybe he did. I think he did try to counter or something. Either he tried to counter and I countered back, or he didn't counter and he went for an expressive alliteration after the monkey fails to kill Kaya. He expressive, gets his stuff, passes it back to me. I begin to start ticking up Kaya, and I think at this point I remove a couple of cards. He doesn't have that many cards in his graveyard. He passes back to him. He goes in for a Murktide, I believe, which is fine. At that point, I'm more than ready, prepared to fight a fully powered Murktide. So he drops a Murktide. I think I get rid of it. I drop a either it's a I think I drop a Kai's Guile on it, so it wasn't too difficult for me at that point. I just got rid of it. Cool. Make myself a token. And then he passes back to me. I exile some more stuff from his graveyard. Attack him with the token. Goes back to him. He plays a couple of cantrips. He plays Thought Scour, plays Consider, plays a bunch of cantrip, reloads his graveyard. So I'm thinking he's preparing to drop another Murktide. Okay, that's fine. I do have Teferi in hand, the 3 mana one. I do have a couple of ways to try to remove the second Murktide. So at this point, I'm still upticking Kaya, so she's sitting around at 4 right now, or so like that. So he goes again. He does drop another Murktide on me, so he exiles his whole grave basically, or whatever's most of it, whatever's left in there, just to play another Murktide. And I think it's like a 6/6 Murktide or a 7/7 Murktide. I don't quite remember. So it's still pretty beefy there. Passes back to me. I go to Fairy. I bounce it back to hand. So it's like he's only on 4 or 5 lands. Not gonna be able to cast another Murktide anytime soon. There's not many cards in his graveyard. Uptick Akaya. Now at this point, I think he realizes, even though Kaya wasn't really removing anything, I think he does realize Kaya does have an ult. So he reads Kaya, and then he counts his card in his graveyard and realizes that yes, next turn if he doesn't deal with the Kaya, he's going to die because he has exiled a bunch of cards to try to play the Murktide. So once again, I think he draws and then he tries to bolt the Kaya. I think I had a counter spell up. I countered the bolt, and I forget what he does, but I think he tries to play something, but I don't think he had anything to really deal with the Kaya. My turn, I swing with the token, and I ult with Kaya, or I think I just ult with Kaya first and swing with the token. I don't quite remember. Either way, it was enough to kill him, and that was my game too. So Kaya ulted, did like I don't remember, like 15 damage to him or something big number. So that's why I love Kaya. It's like people, even if she doesn't actively exile anything in the graveyard, she's a really good clock, especially against decks that love to exile their own grave like Murktide, or if I'm doing the exiling. If I'm doing the exiling, she's gonna be my win condition. She's a really good clock, and a lot of people, the only way to really get rid of her would be like with Unholy Heat or something. Most of the time, um, Unholy Heat's not gonna work because they don't really have anything in the grave for Delirium, and so they gotta spend like 2 bolts or maybe Unholy Heat bolt. Most of the time, every time I've casted Kaya, she's just stuck on the board. So I haven't seen anyone really effectively remove her, just because they see her as a low priority planeswalker. Like they usually will deal with Jace, they usually will deal with both Teferis, but they will leave Kaya alone. At least from my experience, and that's always a good news for me. She doesn't need to generate me advantage. She just needs to be a clock, and so yeah, she's a great cyborg and a great clock. And my opponent thought it was really cool that I did splash in black for Kaya's Guile, that I splashed in for Fatal Push, and Kaya, and that kind of caught him off guard. He didn't really know how to deal with it, and yeah, so I 2-0'd that game. Game 3, I play against my a local Titan player. I played against him a couple of times, so we definitely know each other. We definitely know our matchup. I mean, he usually has a better matchup against me because as I mentioned, my deck struggles against Titan, and that's just a well-known fact. Like I had to build and tutor my side deck to fight against Titan decks, and you know, and I'll get into that here. Let me also just kind of show you the side deck in case you were wondering what I was siding against Murktide. So yeah, I sided my usual. I call them the hateful 8, because they're just graveyard hate and that's all they do. So that's why I usually side in against anything that has to deal with the graveyard. It's great. You choke them out of their resource. You choke them out of their game plan. Naturally, the deck already controls the board well, so you don't have to worry about the board as much. Kaya's Guile does both, controls the board, controls the graveyard, and everything else just controls the graveyard. That's all you really have to worry about. You make their creatures weaker, you make their spells weaker, you make their Murktide a baby, or you make their Murktide uncastable, you make Lurrus not valuable, stuff like that. So you negate a lot of strategies. I highly recommend, if you're going to build Esper, to make sure you include a lot of graveyard hate, whether it's in the form of Rest in Peace or Kaya's Guile, or whatever your choice of graveyard hate is. I usually don't recommend artifact graveyard hates. I've always had a terrible experience with artifact graveyard hate, being it's either Relic of Progenesis or Nile Spellbomb. I just never had good results with them. I guess because when you have them on board, people will just try to bait it out, and then you just use it. You'll get rid of some useless garbage, and then they'll just rebuild their graveyard, and then you gotta deal with it again, and it didn't really solve anything. Or they just force you, or they try to remove it with like a prismatic ending or something like that, you know. And so yeah, it's cool. You draw a card, it does replace itself, but the problem is, it's like you didn't really. It doesn't really solve the graveyard issue. It kind of just stalls them out for a turn, and if you're playing against a graveyard deck, they're gonna have a million ways to and refill the graveyard faster than you can count on it. Just like the Murktide player, I got rid of his graveyard, and in about a single turn, he built his graveyard again and was able to cast another Murktide Regent. And once again, my redundancy there beats him because he couldn't deal with the second round of just graveyard hate. Couldn't deal with Kaya, plussing, and the rest of the stuff. So yeah, just redundancy is very important, especially if you have a low win rate or struggling against those particular deck. It's better to double up and overside than underside and just cross your fingers, hope for the best sort of thing. So yeah, my deck is built to face against a majority of decks nowadays, which is graveyard decks. And the other part of the sideboard is to play against decks I have a real big weakness to, which is generally Titan or Tron or something like that. In those decks, I definitely build this deck to side deck board to fight against those two main threats. So going on to game two. As I mentioned, I play against Titan, and we played against each other a few times, so we know each other's deck pretty well. He knows what I usually do for my sideboard, but this week is the first week I've tested out this card. So, um, back then I was definitely playing Spreading Seas to try to answer Caverns, to try to answer some of his lands, but Spreading Seas is just too slow, in my opinion. Like it like hits stuff, but like you spend 2 mana to hit stuff, but you won't have mana up to counterspell, I guess. So it's kind of redundant, and it also doesn't really work that well. Like they can easily bounce back whatever you do Spreading Seas. Like so if you're Spreading Seas a Cavern of Souls, they have Simic Growth Chamber or something like that. They'll just bounce it back. You just wasted some time to try to counter that. Didn't really do anything. So Spreading Seas wasn't working out for me. I was thinking about Alpine Moon, because I do play the one Trinome, so I could Alpine Moon them. But Alpine Moon is also kind of a dead card sometimes, so it, and it also can be removed. They're playing like um, if they're playing like Abrupt Decay or something like that, that doesn't really help you there. So this is the first week I tried out Armored Mind Sensor, and I thought it did really well. So game one, we go. Um, we play back and forth. He didn't have his combo off, so I was okay there. We go back and forth. What I had was I had a bunch of I had a bunch of Akaya's tokens and Snapcasters on board, and I think I had a Celestial Colonnade. So I was applying a lot of pressure to his health, and was able to kind of counter. I got rid of the Giants each time he was able to get out the Giants with either Kaya's Guiled or some other form of removal. So I think I beat him down that way and took game one. Game two was a little bit more rough. Game two, I think we went into the grind state a bit, and he was able to outgrind me with the Titans. I didn't really see any of my draw cards, and I think he opened up kind of crazy too. I think he opened up with like Amulet, and then like right directly into Titan on like turn 4 or 5. So it was just a rough match. I was playing behind, Titan going first, or having them open up a really good hand. Real rough matchup. So I end up losing game two. Going to game three, this is when things get a little spicy here. So I go. I opened a pretty good hand. I won't lie. I thought my hand was pretty amazing. His hand was a greedy keep, but his hand was a god tier hand if he saw a Simic Growth Chamber, which we talked about after the game. And I looked at he took a picture of his opening hand just to show me after the game. And I was like, yeah, if you drew a Simic Growth Chamber or something, it would have been maybe an easy turn 2, turn 3 kill for him possibly. Either way, he goes I think Amulet into a forest into Amulet. I went first. I drew a land. He goes Force Amulet. Go back to my turn. I had a counter spell. He goes another amulet, force or something like that. I countered the amulet. But then he goes into. Let me think here. No, 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 no. I think with this one, it was a little bit different. He goes into. Yeah, into an Urza Saga, I believe. I forget what exactly we went into. Either Urza Saga. I think it's either Amulet or Urza Saga. Either way, he has a Saga on board. So in my hand, I have a um Urban Mind Sensor. So I go pass. So now I think we're at 3 lands. I think I just Archmage draw. Saga ticks up. He doesn't really do too much. Um, Back to my turn. I play my 4th land. I still have the Mind Sensor, and he goes and I think what happens here is he goes into the Saga trigger, and I go into the Mind Sensor, and then that kind of caught him off guard. He fails to find stuff with the Saga token, which is great, but the game's still on. It's still not over yet, right? So, we go back and forth a little bit more. He gets out a Karn or something like that. I think he gets out a Karn or something, or he doesn't get out a Karn, but he plays. He starts to play more aggressively, right? So now it's like turn 5 or 6. I have my big Teferi out. We go back and forth for a little bit, and eventually he goes Titan. I think I have the Aether Gust. Hit the Aether Gust. The Mind Sensor, he couldn't get rid of this thing, so he was playing a lot slower, which was fine. Like this card, even if he was able to get out certain stuff, fine with me. It's because with this thing, it slows the game down enough so that I can buy time for myself to set up my board, set up my Teferi, set up my defense, set up my counter spells, and prepare for long game, which was fine. So I think he doubles Urza Saga. He was okay with not finding stuff with the Saga, so he was making a bunch of tokens. I think at one point he had 3 tokens, 3 constructs on the board. One Saga pops and sacrifices itself. He fails, so he still has one more Saga trigger, I think, and 3 construct tokens, and I have a big Teferi. He was swinging at the Teferi. I was not blocking because I couldn't really block. I didn't want to get rid of this thing. So goes my turn. Okay, I think we're at this point in the game. It's really late game. I'm at 9 mana. I think I have 9 lands and a Teferi on board and a Mind Sensor on board. And some counter spells and some stuff in the board in my hand. But he has 3 tokens. They're getting bigger. They're getting a little bit more rough to deal with. I don't really have spot removal, so I play. I think what was, in essence, the weirdest combo you can ever see, I guess, or the weirdest set of cards. So I'll show you what happens here. So he has this construct. I remember what I had in my hand. So I had Big Teferi, and I think he was only at 1 or 2 loyalty, so next turn he was definitely not going to survive. And I wanted to for sure have him stay on the board. So alright, so I got like Big Teferi, right? So I had like nine lands, right? So at Big Teferi, Uncensored 9 lands, and the 2 important cards I had in my hand here was Cryptic Command and a Dam. So just me speaking about that, if you already see where this is going, congratulations, you think like me. If not, then I'll kind of explain what happens here. So all right, so I know the Saga, no matter what, is going to be popping next turn. It's on the 2 on 2 counters, and I know for sure he's hurting. He needs another amulet because I got rid of 2 of his amulets already. He only has 1 amulet. I think I prismatic ending one. I counterspell the other one in the game. So he's hurting for an amulet. He needs it because he needs it to kind of try to outplay the Mind Sensor. So if I Dam here, I'd lose my entire board. I lose the Mind Sensor. I kill his token, but then he'll get his trigger off of the Urza Saga. Gonna put me in a rough spot. And he might be able to OTK me there if he does get that off. So what I do is I go dam, right? So I overload the dam, so that's 4 mana. I tap 4 lands, doesn't matter. And then what I do is I cast Cryptic Command on top of that. And so what I do here is I Cryptic Command. I choose to bounce the mind sensor back to my hand, and I draw a card. So I bounce this back, blow up his board, and then plus the fairy. So I've spent 8. I tap 8 lands, right? So this 4 is here is 8 lands. I have 1 open mana left. I untap 2 with Teferi. Now I have an Ardent Sensor in my hand. Perfect, right? So that was like the play. I thought that was kind of cute, I guess you can say. He goes, Saga triggers. I cast the Mind Sensor again. It cock blocks him. He fails to find anything off of the Urza Saga. Cool, buys me some more time, right? So now he goes. I think he goes. Um, he sets up his board for something. I forget. Passes back to me. I think he's just playing more mana to build up next turn for a a a big like yeah, he builds up his board for a big push, I guess, or something like that. So what I do is right now I think I have a Solitude in hand, and I know for sure I had stalled Hall of the Storm Giant, and I think I swing in for 2. So he's at 18 health. He's still pretty healthy because we haven't really done that much damage. He's did more damage to me in terms of with the token. So he's got a 1/1 construct right now and a bunch of like lands. I think he tries to go into like I think he tries to go into a ballista. But I think I get rid of the ballista or something like that. I don't quite remember, but or he doesn't do anything. I think he doesn't. I don't think he does anything there. So let me see here what I had. So where's my Solitude? Because I think some of these like I unfortunately can't show gameplays, but I think some of this like method of playing the game was definitely pretty cool. So I know for sure I had this on board plus 9 mana, and plus the Teferi. He smacks Teferi with the construct. You know, I don't bother blocking. He's still alive, right? So my turn. I have the Solitude. I pass back to him. I have open mana. I don't really want to do anything with my mana yet. Just as I know a Titan's coming in, I don't want to be tapped out. You know, I want to be able to effectively deal with the Titan. Casts the Titan, gets his stuff. I didn't really have anything on the cast, so I go Solitude. I shoot the Titan. He heals 6. He's at 24 health, and cool. Now he doesn't attack with the construct. Passes back to me. I go, I think to a baby Teferi. I get rid of the construct. I animate the giant here. Swinging for 12. So now it's pretty effective, right? So this right here is 12 damage. Swinging. So now he's at 12 health. I pass it back to him, and then he looks at his hand, looks at my board, doesn't see a way to be able to effectively deal with 12 damage again next board, and I got rid of his threat, and he's not much else. He doesn't have any amulet on board, and he gives me the win. So I think that was my actually first time beating him as a that was a great game. I really thought we had some really good exchanges there, and that definitely was a very skillful intensive game. One of the great great Magic games I played. I played many games of Magic, and they're all kind of memorable, and that was one of the more memorable ones right there, because just kind of everything just kind of like was neck to neck. I had my sides, he had his side, but when we played against each other before, most of the time he has an advantage. He kind of beats me there. But yeah, this time I take him down. Great, I'm feeling good. Move on to next game. Next game is against Lotus Combo. So yeah, Lotus Combo. I don't have much experience playing with the deck. I have no idea what they're doing, but all I know is they're sacking their lands, playing the Lotus Field or whatever, making 3 mana, untapping that thing, making 3 mana, untapping it. Basically generating a lot of advantage. So yeah, game 1. They're kind of milling themselves, untapping, sacrificing Lotus, playing that, doing whatnot, and then I think he tries to get out a Lurrus, because they have Lurrus as companion, adds to hand, tries to get out a Lurrus. I go. At this time, they're only stuck on one Lotus, I believe. So it's just one Lotus, goes Lurrus. I noticed that they had a Bauble in the grave. So I assumed they were going to go Lurrus, Bauble, you know. So I go, in response to the cast of Lurrus, I cast Kaya's Guile. So you don't want to wait for Lurrus to come out and then cast Kaya's Guile. Yeah, you get like a 2-for-1. You get rid of the Lurrus, and you know exile their grave, but they get to cast the Bauble for free. So I decided to proactively use the Kaya's Guile to get rid of the graveyard and make a 1/1 token. I'll deal with the Lurrus on my turn. That's fine. You know, I think it's a um, better play there, because I noticed you know they were kind of starving for resources anyways, so that's why I went. What could have went wrong was that they casted Lurrus and they had their Bauble in hand. Could have played a Bauble, sack Bauble, you know, do another Bauble, you know, that sort of play. But I went for the more, because I think I noticed already 2 or 3 Baubles in the graveyard, so it's like, okay, I'm thinking, you know, they don't really have their Bauble in hand. You know, their line of play is to try to get the Bauble from the graveyard. I'm gonna go ahead and just deny them that resource, and then deal with Lurrus my turn. I think during my turn I prismatic ending the Lurrus. You know, start casting Snapcasters, start attacking them. At one point in the game, I had the big Teferi. They kind of go combo off, so they combo off. Um, and they go wish. They wish into the ooze, the 7-mana ooze, I think, or whatever, that has storm. So they make a board full of oozes, and they're all like, you know, it's like, I think it was 7 of them, and they go from 1 to 7 attacks, you know. So for sure, if I don't deal with the board, I'm probably gonna die next turn. That's fine with me. I have Dam in my hand. I have a Teferi on board. Passes back to me. They don't have haste. Passes back to me. I go Teferi plus. This is the baby Teferi. I pass it back to them. They're like, okay, well, the only way you're just gonna survive this is if you have like Supreme Verdict or something. You know, moves to combat, swings in. I go Damn. The game is over. They scoop it up. We go to game 2. So game 2, I'm assuming they used their Lurrus. I know that they're not a full like Lurrus deck, so I didn't want to overside. I think I only sided in Kaya's Guile and I think Dovin's Veto, a couple of things like that. And I didn't commit fully to the Hateful Eight because I didn't think it was necessary in this matchup. But basically, game goes on. We do a couple exchanges. They Inquisition me. They rip a Kaya's Guile out of my hand. You know, turn 4, we're countering, doing whatnot. I'm not applying too much pressure at the moment. They try to combo off a counter a wish, and you know, I think he puts a bunch of cards into the graveyard. Tries to go for the combo, but goes for through Underworld Breach, but messed up in terms of counting their cards in the graveyard. They didn't have quite enough cards in the graveyard in order to cast everything, to escape everything with Underworld Breach, and then just so because they messed up the play, they end up scooping to me. So yeah, so I took it 2-0 there. I think at the end of the game, they were basically saying they were trying to play around Kaya's Guile, because they knew if they went for it, if they cast the Underworld's Breach, I would Kaya's Guile them, get rid of their whole graveyard and stuff like that. So because they were trying to play around Kaya's Guile, they messed up their own combo, which was okay. First game I didn't see the Underworld Breach, but I knew they were doing something with their graveyard, but I didn't see the Underworld Breach, so I didn't heavily sided into the graveyard hate. If they got the what they were trying to go for was the Grave Shot combo, so they're trying to storm off to get the Grape Shot off and to kill me with Grape Shot rather than anything else. But because they didn't have enough cards in the graveyard, they couldn't storm off and couldn't kill me that turn. They just forfeit the game from there. If they did combo off and beat me that turn or beat me that game, I would have went for the full 8 and just to deny them all of the graveyard and all the storm potential from there. So yeah, move on to game 4, which is against another Titan deck. At this point, I'm feeling good, but I know Titan's my worst matchup. You know, I always struggle against it just because of the fact that Titan's really quick. I'm a control deck. I'm slower, and Titan's got ways to deal damage not through creatures. They got Valakut you gotta deal with. They got Titan himself that's usually uncounterable. Half their creatures are uncounterable because of Cavern of Souls, or you gotta deal with a Karn or something like that. Okay, so game one, we go. He doesn't really open up that crazy. I open my standard, land into counterspell, Archmage Charms, the whole 9 yard. I think I slow down the game because I do steal one of his Amulet Titan with or Amulet, sorry, with the Archmage Charm. So it buys me a bit of time there. I'm able to play my tap lands without shocking myself. Excuse me about that. So I'm able to play my tap land without shocking myself. Cool. The game proceeds. I think he does go Dryad. He does go a Titan, but I Chaos Guile twice. I also recycle my Chaos Guile, I think, for like a third, fourth time. So now I got like 2 Kaya tokens plus a Snapcaster on board. So I'm swinging in for 4 damage every turn. That they don't have a blocker or something like that. They have like brazen dude, the brazen 1 mana guy. I think I just countered him just to deny him the resource and deny him an extra land into the battlefield. So it goes back and forth. At this point, I think he's at like 6 or 8 lands or something like that. So he casts a Walking Ballista. Okay, I think he spends 4 mana, casts a Walking Ballista, passes back to me. So it's a 2/2 Ballista, not too threatening, but it threatens to kind of pop my 1/1s. So I swing in with I don't attack with the Snapcaster. I swing in with the 2 1/1s. And I might have had a Planeswalker. I don't quite remember. But anyways, I left my mana open. I passed it back to him. He goes upticks the he tries to add another counter to the Walking Ballista. So he activates the ability, pays the 3 mana. At this point, I have Solitude in hand. I cast a Solitude, hard cast a Solitude. Like I said, I never like casting Solitude to invoke the Solitude. It never generates value for me that way. I'm a value player. Like I love value towns, so I never invoke unless it's like an emergency or something that's gonna put them behind that will win me the game. Then sure, I'll invoke. Otherwise, if it doesn't win me the game, fuck it. I'm gonna cast the Solitude for the full value. So I cast Solitude, target the Ballista. So that's how you play Magic. You gotta wait for your opponent to do something like that. So he doesn't have enough mana, I believe, to put another counter on the onto the Ballista, because I think he does something else. So he doesn't have enough mana. So he only has enough mana to put the 1 counter on. So on the stack, the counter before the counter goes onto the Ballista, I Solitude the Ballista. He has to make a hard choice here, either to kill my 1/1s or to kill the Solitude that is now coming out on the board. So he decides to kill my Solitude. That's fine. Ballista's gone. I think he goes to a Karn or something like that. It doesn't matter. I overrun the Karn. Go back and forth a little bit more. I resolve it to Fairy, the big 5 mana one. The game closes out there. There's not much he can do to kind of combat the amount of resources I have in my hand and the tokens that were poking at him. So we go to game 2. So game 2, my side deck plan for in case I didn't mention what my side deck plan for Amulet Titan is this right here. So this will usually deal with a lot of things. So this usually will deal with Titan. If they do resolve a Titan and you can't counter it, or you don't have an Aether Gust, just kill it. They only have so many Titans to play, unless they can shuffle their graveyard back to their deck using a endurance or something. They only got 4 Titans. So if you can deal with the 4 Titans, and you can deal with like the Dryads, so they don't Valakut you to death, you're in good shape here. So this is my sideboard here. Let me show you what I think I took out. I think I take out like the I think I take out Fatal Pushes for sure. I knew that Fatal Pushes wasn't gonna do too much in this matchup. I think I take out Dredge. I think I take out. I don't know. Remember if I took out the Cryptic Command. I took out Dredge. Maybe like a counter spell, maybe an Archmage Charm. I know I think I take out a couple of Snapcasters in case they. I think I take out 2 snaps for sure in case they decide some Graveyard Hate or play an Endurance. It's the first time me playing against that Titan player, so I don't know if they're playing Endurance or not. The other Titan player I play against, we play against each other. We know how we side. So I usually side out snaps against him because he for sure plays like Bajuka Bob. That's the other thing. Titan players, they play Bajuka Bob, so you can't always rely on your graveyard to get you value because they always main that one Bajuka Bob. So just be wary of that. Um, yeah, I forget what else I side out, but yeah, I think it's like maybe this. I know for sure I sided out 7 cards, and for sure the 2 fatals, and I think 2 ops. I think it's something like this, or the 2 deluge. I think. Let me let me do this so you guys can kind of see an example of how I side out, in case you do want to play this deck, and or maybe you want to learn something. Um, this is how I decide to side out. Oh, here you go. So add in 7, take out 7. Um, so I think it, yeah, I think it's like this. So I think this is what I sided out here. So I sided out this. I only take out the deluge because I figured I'm not gonna have time to cast deluge before to draw 2. It's a little too slow in this matchup. Titan can be really crazy. You don't have time to really get value off the deluge. It's nice in the long game, but right now we're trying to establish our boards really quickly, really fast. Don't got time to play that. Take out the snaps in case they don't really play. They play some graveyard hate. You don't want to draw like 3 or 4 snaps in your opening hand and lose to like an endurance or something like that. Fatals are great against Dryads, against Azusa, but kind of dead everywhere else. You can use it against the tokens for sure. You can use it against Ballista for sure. There is a case to argue that you can keep in the fatal pushes, but I figured I got enough removal with other stuff. I don't think I want a dead card against the actual Titan himself because he's more of a problem than the tokens are. He's more of a problem than Ballista is. So I wanted stuff to kill Titan and deal with the tokens and stuff some other way. So I take that out. I take out the 2 ops because now since I'm taking out the snaps, it's not imperative to play ops to make the snaps better. I still keep 2 ops in to kind of have that pseudo 25 lands right there. 'Cause the reasoning behind playing 2 ops is for each 2 cantrips you play kind of counts as a land. So that's how you can kind of think of it. At least that's what I've been told. So there you go. Side this in. So game 2 absolutely was a massacre on my end, just because he goes first. He goes Amulet, goes again. I'm only on 1 land, so I play a polluted. I do have a counter spell. I do have Archmage Charms. Do have Teferi. So I have a decent, good control hand. My hand was perfectly curved. The issue was that he opened up so crazy that it was so hard for me to keep up as a control player playing behind on lands. So he goes Forest Amulet. His turn again. Taps a Forest Amulet. Plays a Simic Growth Chamber. Tap tap tap. Get a bunch of freaking mana. Casts a Karn turn 2. Shit. I'm already behind. He's got a Karn out already. The 4 mana Karn. He searches for the Trinome Spear or whatever you call it. The one that basically it's a 3 mana artifact. All spells that cost 3 mana or less cost 3 mana more. So kind of like a defense grid, but it kind of like obviously it kills. It makes basically an op into a 4 mana op. It makes your deck a lot worse. So okay, fine. I can deal with it. I got a counter spell. I play my land. His turn he plays that. I counter spell it. Cool. He Karns again this time. He Karns for I think a pilgrimage, Golos. I was like, oh crap. Now he's got like his board set up. We're in a heap of trouble. I gotta deal with the Golos and whatever else he puts out. He puts out a Dryad. Puts 2 lands. Doesn't do much else. My turn. I think I have a Teferi or something like that. I try to bounce back the Dryad or whatever, or gonna try to negate the Golos or something. I think he goes Caverns, calls the Golos. I couldn't negate it. Plays the Dryad. Tries to Valakut me because I think that right now he's about 6 lands in. He's gonna go for the Valakut combo. I think I have I think I had a whatchamacallit. No. So he had 5 lands. He casts the Golos, so it's uncounterable right now. But I think he hasn't played his lands for turn yet, and I know he's gonna Valakut. So I go Kai's Guile, sack the Dryad off. The Golos comes in, but so he gets his triggers, doesn't get Valakut off. Cool, my turn. I do stuff, but it wasn't quite enough. He finds another Dryad. I'm trying to bounce the Dryad, combat the Golos, try to get rid of some stuff, but eventually he's just so ahead that I can't get rid of the Karn. The Karn is just like getting him infinite value, and I think at one point he casts a ballista for like 3 or 6 or something that hits me and kills me from there. Okay, I'm a little bummed out that that game was kind of quick and painful there. So go to game 3. I go first, and I get another pretty good hand. So this one was even weirder. So I start off with another mind sensor in my hand. So all right, cool. I'll play a land. He goes, he plays his thing. He doesn't immediately get the amulet, but that's fine. He goes turn 1, Urza Saga. So I know he doesn't have like um, another amulet in the hand yet. So okay, passes back to me. I play something. I think then he draws something. I think he then tries to play an amulet. I think I counter spell, counter his amulet. Goes back to him. Urza ticks up 2. He plays a land, a forest or something. Goes back to me. So at this point, all right, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the saga to pop. I'm ready for the mind sensor to come out. I'm ready for it to do stuff. So I play my land. I don't cast anything. He goes, saga triggers. So he I think he does have a Simic Growth Chamber. I think he Simic Growth Chambers last turn to set up for this turn. So he goes floats the colorless, the mind sensor triggers, or the Urza Saga triggers. I go, I flash in the mind sensor, and he's like, oh shit, like he wasn't expecting this thing. At first, he thought I was gonna play Shadow of the Doubt or something, but I was like, oh, this card is technically worse than Shadow of the Doubt, but I'll try it anyway. So I flash in um, the sensor, mind sensor, on the stack, and he's like, oh fuck, like this can go wrong 100 ways, because now he has to think about how he wants. So he takes a while to think, so about it, and he's like, I tell him, there's still a chance you'll get your amulet off, and he's like, you know what, fine, whatever, we'll just see how it goes. He looks at the top 4, doesn't find anything. All right, he still has a floating, still has Simic, and he plays a forest, taps for 4 mana there, plays a Karn, searches for another spear. I'm like, okay, his Karn's down to 3 loyalty. My turn, I swing at the Karn, hit it for 2. It's down to 1. I play my land. I pass it back to him. He goes and tries to place a spear. I negate the spear with counterspell or Archmage's Charm. I don't quite remember. Passes back to me. I draw something. I think I draw another Mind Sensor, and now I'm on my 4th or 5th land, right? So okay, I swing into the Karn. Karn's at 2 loyalty. Get rid of the Karn. All right, pass it back to him. I think he does something. Doesn't really do too much. During his end step, I flash in another Mind Sensor. So now I got 2 Mind Sensor on board. So passes back to me. I just go hit 4, pass it back to him. He doesn't do anything. Back to me, hit for 4. It goes on like that for like at least 2 to 3 turns. So he just couldn't really do anything about this. I think what he was trying to do was find a Walking Ballista and find maybe a Cavern of Souls or something to answer the Mind Sensor, because this thing was just cock blocking him. Like if he casted Titan, it wouldn't really done too much. I would force him to search whatever 2 lands he had on top of his deck. Whatever. He gets a little desperate because right now his health total is going down. He doesn't have any way to block this. He doesn't have the Grazer to block it, and he doesn't have the Ballista to kill these things. this thing's only weak to Ballista. That's the only way to get rid of this thing, from what I know. Like they don't play any other removal spell, so they don't play Abrupt Decay or anything like that. So this was the only way to kind of kill the Arvid Mind Scissors with the Ballista. So he passes back. I think he does try to cast a Titan. I go Aether Gust. Okay, so he puts the bomb in the deck. I don't, because in his mind it's not even worth casting the Titan anymore. Because what is Titan gonna do? He's already getting clocked down. He's already at, I think, at 8 or 4 health already. So my turn, I swing in. He's at 4. His turn. I think as like a last Hail Mary, he goes Summoner Pack. I'm not even too sure what he was searching for, and then he just gives me the game, and the game ends there. So yeah, it was basically just a Mind Sensor beatdown. I didn't draw any other creatures. I didn't draw a man land. I maybe had a Teferi or something. I don't quite remember, but basically it was every turn I was just clocking him down for 4 damage a turn. And if he casted a Titan, I would just ignore the Titan, just keep attacking with the birds. I could maybe like bounce the Titan back. I had I think Counterspell, Archmage Charm, and so that was good. Yeah, the Mind Sensor surprisingly did really work really well. I think my game 1, my opponent did cast a Titan under Mind Sensor, and he couldn't find a single land off of the Titan, and that was pretty funny. On my end at least, it was funny for me seeing that they played like 30 some lands and he couldn't find any land off on top of 4. And I think one time he did attack with a Titan and did find 2 lands, but it didn't matter because I got rid of the Titan or something like that, with like Ekai's Guiled or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, Mind Sensor here. What I like about it better than anything else is it's a body on top of being a stacks card, because you could play Ashiot, you could play Shadow of the Doubt, but it stalls them for a turn. They don't really have to answer it. Yeah, the Ashiot hurts, but he doesn't really do anything else for me. Like I'm not gonna down tick him to mill myself. I'm not gonna down tick them to mill them. Like there's no point in milling a Titan player unless you're trying to deck them out or you're just trying to get rid of some of their lands. Makes sense, but if you do that, Ashiot is weak to the Urza tokens. So that's the one thing. If they can't beat you with Titan, they'll beat you with the Urza tokens. And so that's something you gotta pay attention to. So Ashiot's not a for sure answer. And the Ashiot I'm referring to is the 3 mana Ashiot. I'm not referring to the 5 mana Ashiot or any other Ashiot. It's the 3 mana one with the ability that your opponent can't search their deck, which is really good. Like for sure, you can either go Mind Sensor or Ashiot. If you need more graveyard hate, you can definitely play Ashiot in the side deck. I didn't want to because I didn't want to play that much more graveyard hate. And so I decided to go for Mind Sensor and try to play a Mind Sensor beatdown, which worked out. Every time I did cast Mind Sensor against the Titan player, they lost, and so I definitely think Mind Sensor has found a place in my side deck. I beat both Titan players. Titan's my worst matchup in my opinion, considering how much I've played of this deck against other decks and everything else. Being able to beat Titan with the Mind Sensor felt great, and seeing that they had no real answer except for like a Ballista, which they may have main deck or they may have just side decked, and they can search it out with a Karn or something. At the end of the game, we talked about it. He could have searched for I think a Ballista with the Karn, but he thought that he figured he wouldn't be able to safely cast the Ballista without a Cavern of Souls. So he decided to go for the Spear instead to at least try to do something, which was true. Like he didn't have the Cavern, I had the counter spell, so no matter what, he couldn't really outplay the Mind Sensor here. So very cool. It did its job. I mean, I liked it. And so if the Titan player is not prepared for this thing, it will win. It will steal the game, or it will at least slow down the game long enough so that you can set up your board and win from there. So yeah, those were my 4 games yesterday, and I thought they were all good games. This particular local I go to for yesterday, their player base are definitely on the tougher side. Like they know how to play Magic really really well. Some of the other locals I go to, they're more casual players. They'll play the game modern for fun, or they'll have more budget decks, or they'll have like more like for fun off meta stuff. But coming here for sure, um, the player base is more diverse. They definitely got more of a higher ceiling, and I felt pretty good winning here at this particular local. Um, and then my other local I go to that with a bunch of lowest players, they're skillful players, but my deck just eats lowest decks for alive anyways. So I couldn't care less. I have a good time there because people can't really beat me there because my deck just naturally just counters them. So that's fine. So yeah, so those were my results. I don't know when next time I'm gonna get in another game of Modern. Possibly when I'm in Hawaii or something. I might um, try to find a local there or two to play. I know for sure. I think Ideal 808 is there. So they're one of the big like TCG um, player sellers, and they're one of the big eBay sellers, and they have a shop there. And I've been in that shop once. I didn't really buy anything, but I bought from them online or over the years. But if their tournament grounds are open up, I might go ahead and hit them up there when I have free time and try to get a game of Modern or two in. Or I might play Yu-Gi-Oh. I might bring my Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Who knows? Um, but yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. I said I was gonna try to make this video shorter, but I thought some of the games and some of the plays here were just so good. I just kind of had to talk about them. It took a little bit longer. Um, I wish I had some gameplay footage, and just watching how we played the game would have been really amazing. But maybe one day when